The street. The scream. The shadow it started like any ordinary Sunday afternoon. The sun hung low over the boulevard, casting golden streaks through the dusty windshield of an old food truck parked by the sidewalk. Children laughed nearby, chasing bubbles. Vendors sold flowers, fruit, and secondhand books. Everything felt calm. Until a sudden scream sliced through the noise. It came from a narrow alley just beside the public restroom block near the skate park. A young girl, maybe 17 or 18, with wide eyes and a cracked voice, stumbled out. Her clothes were torn at the sleeve, her face flushed and terrified. People turned to look, but didn't move. They never do at first. But Keanu Reeves did. He had been sitting quietly on a weathered bench across the street, sipping coffee from a recycled paper cup. No cameras, no assistant, just him. Some recognized, him whispered about it. But he didn't come here to be noticed. He came to think, to breathe, and on that day, to act. He was on his feet in a second. He crossed the street fast, dodging a taxi and a cyclist. As he reached the girl, she backed up against the wall, holding out her trembling hands like a shield. Behind her, a shadow fell. A man stepped into view. He was broad, angry-looking, with a torn leather vest and a patch that read, Crow's MC. His helmet dangled from one hand, and his eyes, cold and sharp, locked onto the girl like prey. "Get back here," the biker growled, his voice thick with rage. "I'm not done talking to you." Keanu stood between them without a second thought. His voice was soft, low. "Leave her alone." The biker laughed, bitter and mocking. "Who the hell are you? Her dad?" "No," Keanu replied. "Just someone who doesn't walk away." The girl looked up at him, her breath catching. She didn't know him. But something in his voice made her believe she was safe. The biker didn't care. He stepped forward, inches from Keanu now. "You really want to do this, old man?" Keanu didn't move. "You don't want to do this." And then, chaos. The biker shoved Keanu hard, trying to push past him. But Keanu had trained for years. He didn't fight with fists unless he had to. Instead, he turned slightly, guiding the man's momentum away with a sidestep. The biker stumbled but caught himself. Crowds were gathering now. Phones came out. The girl crouched behind Keanu, still shaking. But just as the biker pulled back, his arm to throw a punch, another voice rang out. "Oi, that's enough!" It was deep, gritty, unmistakably British. Heads turned. From the parking lot, a man approached fast, bald, solid, and wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. Jason Statham. No one expected it, not even Keanu. He raised an eyebrow as Jason walked up beside him, folding his arms. "What's going on here?" Jason asked, his voice firm, steady. The biker blinked, clearly recognizing them now. "What is this, some kind of movie?" "No," Keanu said. "It's real life, and she's in danger." Jason's eyes met the biker's. He didn't flinch. "Leave, now, before this gets worse." For a long second it seemed like the man might fight. But then he saw the cameras, the people, the phones recording. Two famous men standing in his way. His jaw tightened, he spat to the side, then turned and walked off. The girl collapsed into tears. Keanu bent down beside her, gently placing his hand on her back. "You're safe now. You're okay." Jason looked around. "Someone call the cops, get her checked." A woman nearby stepped forward, already on the phone. A few others brought water. A man took off his coat and gave it to her to wear. Slowly, the crowd became more human. But Keanu didn't move. He stayed with her until the ambulance arrived. Her name was Emily. She had run away from a foster home a week earlier. The biker had offered her food, shelter. Then things turned ugly. She escaped when he stopped for gas. And if Keanu hadn't been there, the paramedics thanked him. But he didn't stay for the cameras. He walked away quietly, nodding at Jason. Jason caught up to him by the bench. "You always like this?" Keanu smiled faintly. "Just doing what I can." Jason nodded. "You did good." They sat together for a while, two men who had played heroes, but had just been real ones. But neither of them knew what would come next, because the biker didn't disappear. He came back, and this time, he wasn't alone. The return of the biker 2 nights passed. The incident had made waves online. The video of Keanu Reeves and Jason Statham standing up to a biker had gone viral, shared by millions. People praised their bravery. News channels picked it up. Even late-night hosts joked about it, but with admiration. But not everyone was laughing. Deep, in a mechanic garage on the edge of town, the biker sat in the shadows, his bruised pride festering like a wound. The patch on his vest wasn't just decoration. Crow's MC was a name feared in some parts of the state, known for illegal street racing, fights, and intimidation. The man Keanu faced was called Vince, and Vince didn't like being embarrassed, especially not on camera. He watched the video over and over, and each time his face hardened. His brothers leaned in, some angry, some quiet. "He's an actor, man," one said. "He ain't one of us." Vince shook his head. "He humiliated me, and that girl, she's mine." They didn't care much about the girl, but they cared about respect, about reputation, and Keanu had, without even throwing a punch, crushed theirs. "We send a message," Vince growled. Meanwhile, in a small community shelter tucked behind a church downtown, Emily was safe, for now. After the attack, she had been taken in by a kind older woman named Sister Helena. She had gray hair, soft eyes, and a voice like a warm fire on a cold night. The moment Emily arrived, Sister Helena wrapped her in a hug. Keanu had quietly arranged the shelter with the help of his friend, a local pastor. He made sure Emily had food, clothes, even a sketchbook. He had noticed the way her eyes lit up when she doodled on the napkin in the ambulance. "You like drawing?" he had asked. Emily nodded. "I draw when I'm scared." "Then keep drawing," Keanu replied. "But you're not alone now." He visited her every day. Not as a star, not as a hero, just as a man who cared. Sometimes he brought her hot cocoa. Sometimes a new pencil set. Sometimes he said nothing and just sat near while she sketched in silence. Jason Statham also dropped by once, awkward but sincere. "You all right, kid?" he asked, scratching his head. "Better now," she whispered. But peace never stays long when someone's hunting you. Late one evening, as Emily finished a drawing of a girl sitting on the moon, the shelter lights flickered. Sister Helena looked up, frowning. She walked toward the back door to check the fuse box. But it wasn't the power. It was the front gate. Outside, 3 motorcycles growled low like hungry wolves. They had found her. Inside the shelter, Emily's hands trembled. She peeked through the curtain and froze. Vince was outside. He didn't come in yet. He just stared. But that was enough. Sister Helena locked the door. "Call Keanu," she whispered. Emily grabbed the emergency phone and dialed the number Keanu had saved under the name Uncle K. He picked up in one ring. "Emily?" "They're here," she whispered. Keanu didn't ask who. He knew. "Stay inside. Don't open the door. I'm coming." He hung up and didn't wait. Jason was already on his way. Keanu had warned him something. Didn't feel right. They had both been watching, waiting. And now it had begun. Within 10 minutes, Keanu pulled up in a quiet black SUV. Jason arrived seconds later on a matte gray Ducati. They didn't talk. They just moved. The shelter door opened just a crack when they knocked with the agreed code. Sister Helena let them in, her hands wringing with worry. "They're still outside," she said. "Circling, watching." Keanu looked at Jason. "We're not letting them get near her." Jason cracked his knuckles. "Good. I was getting bored. But the crows weren't fools. They didn't attack. Not yet. They left. But only after scratching a message into the hood of Keanu's SUV. 3 words. She is ours. Emily saw it and burst into tears. Keanu knelt beside her. "No," he said gently. "You are not anyone's property. You're free. We'll make sure of it." But they both knew it wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. Keanu called an old contact, a security expert who had once worked for major movie sets. They installed cameras, reinforced locks, added panic buttons. They also moved Emily to a different place, a safer one, an apartment in a building with security guards and a private elevator. Keanu covered everything, quietly, without telling the press, without seeking applause. And in the meantime, he and Jason started digging into crow's muss. What they found was worse than they expected. Trafficking, blackmail, fear, but no one dared testify. Not yet. Keanu knew they needed more than evidence. They needed courage, and Emily, she was starting to find hers again, little by little, one drawing at a time. But just when she started to smile again, something terrible happened. The shelter burned down. No one was hurt. Sister Helena wasn't there that night, but the message was clear. We warned you. Read the scorched paper. Found nailed to the side gate. Jason stood beside the ashes, his jaw clenched. This isn't just about her anymore. Keanu nodded slowly. Then let's finish it. Because what the crows didn't know was that Keanu had been recording everything, and they had just stepped into a trap. The Trappist train poured down over the city like the sky itself was grieving. Flashing red and blue lights still reflected off the broken glass and ash that remained of the church shelter. Firefighters had already left. The last ember had died, but Keanu Reeves and Jason Statham stood under the gray sky, silent, watching the charred skeleton of the place where Emily had started to feel safe. Keanu bent down and picked up a half-burnt sketchbook. The edges were blackened, but inside, a few pages had survived. One of them showed a girl with wild hair sitting in a forest holding a glowing light in her hands. Keanu looked at the page for a long time, then folded it gently and slid it into his coat pocket. This isn't just vandalism, Jason muttered. This is war. And they think we're not ready, Keanu said quietly. But they were. 2 days earlier, before the fire, Keanu had made a call to someone he hadn't spoken to in years. A quiet man named Malcolm, a former federal cyber investigator turned freelance digital ghost. He owed Keanu a favor. When Keanu explained everything, Malcolm didn't hesitate. I'll need names, patches, phone numbers if you got any. I have license plates, Keanu said. That'll do. In 48 hours, Malcolm had done what police hadn't done in 5 years. He cracked into a private cloud server tied to the Crow's MC. What he found made Jason curse out loud. Videos. Hidden. Messages, transactions, proof. Everything. They now had undeniable evidence that the Crows were running illegal operations, threatening people and, most importantly, trafficking runaways like Emily. But exposing them wasn't enough. Keanu knew they needed something bigger, something public. We take this to court, Jason said. No, Keanu replied. We take this to the world. Emily had been moved again, this time to a safe house on the edge of the city, deep in the hills, protected by private security. She didn't complain. She just looked down at her sketchbook most of the time. Quiet, reserved. Keanu visited her that evening with takeout and a new art set. They won't stop, will they? She asked, her voice small. Keanu sat beside her. They might try, but we're going to stop them. She looked at him with tired eyes. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. He smiled softly. Because someone once helped me when I was lost, and because kindness doesn't need a reason. She nodded slowly, then opened the new art kit. For the first time in days, she smiled. The plan began to take shape. Keanu and Jason didn't just want to fight the Crows. They wanted to destroy them legally and publicly, so no one else would get hurt. First, they contacted an investigative journalist. Her name was Marisol Gentry, sharp, fearless. She had exposed corrupt politicians before. Now she would expose the Crows. They gave her the evidence. She listened, and then she agreed. We go live in 3 days, she said. This story will be everywhere. But Vince wasn't waiting. He was watching, from a distance, from shadows. His crew had eyes everywhere. Someone on the inside had warned him about the story being leaked. He made a new plan. He would take Emily, not to harm her but to silence her. Keanu got the warning from Malcolm late at night. A message flashed on his phone. Intercepted chatter. Grab the girl before the story airs. Keanu called Jason instantly. They're coming. Jason was already grabbing his jacket. Then let's be there before they do. They rushed to the safe house, arriving just minutes ahead of the bikers. Emily was inside, asleep on the couch, her sketchbook on her chest. The guards had noticed movement near the perimeter. They're here, one of the guards said. Motorcycles in the trees, at least 5. Keanu stepped inside, gently shook Emily awake. We have to move. Her eyes fluttered open, then widened. She didn't panic. She just nodded. They rushed to the back exit, but it was blocked. Vince had arrived. He stood there with 4 others, engines rumbling behind them. Give her up, Vince growled. Or people start bleeding. Keanu didn't flinch. He stepped forward between Emily and the gang. Jason stepped beside him. You should walk away, Jason said. Vince laughed. From what? 2 actors? Keanu raised a small black device and tapped a button. Instantly, hidden floodlights in the woods snapped on, and behind the trees, cameras, reporters, police, agents. They had come early. Marisol Gentry herself stepped out with a microphone. Her cameraman was live streaming. Vince Carter of the Crow's MEC, she said calmly. You're being recorded and broadcast live. Vince froze. His men did too. A voice shouted, Drop your weapons. Hands where we can see them. The police swarmed from the sides. It had been a trap all along, and they walked right into it. Emily stood behind Keanu, breathing fast, watching the men who had haunted her now being arrested one by one. Vince looked at her one last time before being cuffed. His eyes were full of hatred. Hers were full of strength. She didn't look away. The story aired that night. Exclusive. Hollywood stars helped bring down outlaw biker gang linked to multiple crimes. Emily's face wasn't shown, but her story was told. The public rallied. Donations poured into shelters. People praised Keanu and Jason, but the 2 men didn't appear on any interview. They simply watched the broadcast from a quiet room. Emily sat between them. You're safe now, Keanu told her. She smiled, then handed him a new drawing. It was of 3 figures, a girl in the middle, a man in black on one side, a bald man in a hoodie on the other, all 3 holding hands. Underneath, she had written one word: family, scars, and silence. The days that followed felt strange. The danger was gone, but the fear hadn't fully left. Emily had nightmares. Sometimes she woke up screaming, hands shaking, unable to breathe. Keanu was always nearby. Sometimes in the next room, sometimes already sitting by her bed, like he somehow knew when she would wake up. He didn't say much during those moments. He just sat quietly. That was enough. Jason, on the other hand, tried to keep her laughing. He brought her random gifts. A plush squirrel, a snow globe, a book about martial arts. None of it matched, but it didn't matter. It was the effort that counted. You ever think of becoming a therapist? Emily asked him once, raising an eyebrow. Jason smirked. I hit people for a living. This is new to me. Emily giggled. It was the first real laugh they had heard from her. But even with safety and laughter, the wounds remained. The news channels kept playing the video. People online praised Keanu and Jason for their bravery, called them real-life heroes. Some called Emily a symbol of survival, but Emily didn't feel like a symbol. She felt broken. I don't want to be famous, she whispered one evening. Keanu nodded slowly. You're not. You're just you. But everyone's watching. Let them, he said. Just don't let them define you. A week later, Keanu took Emily to a quiet lake outside the city. There were no cameras, no reporters, just water, wind, and peace. They sat on the dock, shoes off, feet dangling above the ripples. When I was your age, Keanu said softly, I felt lost too. I didn't know where I belonged. I was angry, scared. I thought nobody understood. Emily looked at him. What changed? Someone listened, he said. Someone didn't walk away. She nodded, then said something he didn't expect. Do you think People like Vince ever change? Keanu didn't answer right away. Some do, he said eventually. But most don't. They're too full of pride. Or pain. Emily looked down at the water. I don't want to carry hate. But it's hard. He put a hand on her shoulder. He took something from you. But he doesn't get to keep your peace. Don't let him. They sat there for a long time. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the legal case against the Crows was growing stronger. More people came forward. Women who had stayed silent for years now had the courage to speak. Marisol Gentry's story lit a fire across the country. And quietly, without public credit, Keanu and Jason paid for legal help, housing, and therapy for every girl who needed it. Emily helped too. She started drawing for the others. Pictures of safety, hope, healing. She gave them away for free. One girl told her, "Your drawings helped me more than the judge ever could." And yet not everything was healing, because one night Jason walked into the safe house holding a folded paper in his hand. He looked serious. "Keanu, we've got a problem." Emily looked up from her sketch pad, eyes alert. Jason laid the paper down on the table. It was a letter, no stamp, hand-delivered, no name, just 6 words, written in thick black ink. He's not the only one. Keanu's jaw clenched. Jason explained, "This was left at the front gate this morning. Guard didn't see who dropped it." Keanu picked up the letter, examined it. The handwriting was messy, uneven, but not rushed. It wasn't just a threat. It was a warning. Someone else was still out there. That night, Keanu barely slept. He watched the surveillance footage over and over. A dark blur near the front gate. No face. No plate. Whoever left the note knew where they were, but didn't want to be seen. Jason paced in the hallway. "You think it's another gang?" "Maybe," Keanu said. "Or maybe someone who wasn't arrested." They pulled up the original file Malcolm had sent. The one showing every name tied to the Crows' MC Vince had about 20 close associates. 16 had been arrested, 4 were still unaccounted for, and one of them had a nickname. Ghost. Real name, unknown. Background, sealed. He was the one who cleaned up Vince's messes, the enforcer who never showed his face. And if he was still out there, Emily wasn't safe. The next morning, they moved her again, not just to a safer location, but out of the city, a private cabin deep in the mountains. Keanu didn't tell anyone where it was, not even Marisol. Jason handled the security himself. But before they left, Emily asked one thing. "Can I leave something behind?" She took one of her drawings and pinned it to the old safe house wall. It showed a bird, small, wounded, but flying above a storm. "It's for the next girl who needs to see it," she said. Keanu smiled. "You're stronger than you think." And, with that, they disappeared into the trees. But the ghost was already watching. He had followed the car from a distance, never getting too close, never revealing himself. Yet. The ghost in the trees, the cabin sat on a ridge, surrounded by thick pine, trees far from the hum of the city. There were no neighbors, no streetlights, and only one winding dirt road that led up to it. It was the kind of place where silence stretched long, where even the wind whispered secrets. KeanuReeves stood on the porch that first evening, arms folded, eyes scanning the trees. Behind him, Jason Statham checked the security setup. Motion, sensors, silent alarms, backup generators. They were careful, precise. Nothing left to chance. Inside, Emily was quiet. Her drawings now had sharper lines, darker colors. She was still healing, but something had shifted. She didn't ask questions anymore. She watched more, listened deeper. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fear, or maybe she could feel it too. The ghost was near. On the second night, Keanu found something strange. A single pine cone placed on the porch railing, perfectly centered, not fallen. It hadn't been there that morning. It wasn't much. Could have been a mistake, but it wasn't. Jason came out and looked at it. You thinking what I'm thinking? Keanu nodded. He's watching. How close you reckon? Keanu looked into the trees. Too close. They didn't tell Emily. Not yet. She had just started smiling again. She was drawing birds now. Colorful ones. Free ones. But that evening, while walking back from the creek near the cabin, she heard a snap behind her. A branch. She turned fast. No one. Only shadows and wind. Her heart raced. When she reached the porch, Keanu was already waiting. You, okay? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. But he knew. That night, they added more motion detectors. Placed them in a wider circle around the property. Jason stayed up, watching monitors in the den. Keanu stayed by Emily's door. At 3:42 a.m., the alarm pinged once. One blip. Then, silence. Jason froze. He rewound the camera footage. A tall figure, blurry, distant, just outside the tree line, not moving, not running, just standing, like he wanted to be seen. Jason hit the emergency alert. Keanu was already outside by the time Jason joined him. Nothing but moonlight and pine. They searched for an hour. No tracks, no sound, no trace, just a message on the back of the SUV written in ash. Not over. The next morning, Emily found it. She didn't scream. She just stared. Then she went inside and started drawing. Keanu stepped behind her and saw it. A faceless man in the trees. No eyes. No name. Just presence. Who is he? She asked. Keanu exhaled, slowly. Someone who hides behind fear. Can we stop him? Keanu looked at her. Yes, but not with fists. Not this time. They needed help. Keanu reached out to Marisol again, but this time it wasn't for a story. We need someone who knows how to find ghosts. She made a call. A day later, a woman named Tala arrived. She was quiet, sharp-eyed, and moved like a shadow herself. Tala used to work for a federal counterintelligence agency. Now she helped victims of underground violence. She never charged, just asked for honesty. After reviewing the footage and map, Tala said one thing: he's close, and he wants her to know it. Keanu nodded. Then let's bring him out. The next night they staged a routine. Emily walked to the creek, alone, or so it seemed. Keanu was already in position, hidden behind the larger trees. Earpiece on. Jason waited near the ridge with Tala, watching thermal imaging on a tablet. The trap was set. Emily knelt by the water, picking up smooth stones and tossing them. Nothing happened for 5 minutes. Then, movement from the left. Jason whispered, "We've got a heat signature." Keanu tightened his grip on the stun device he carried. No guns. They didn't want violence, just an end. Then the figure stepped out. A tall man in gray, face covered in cloth and dark glasses. He didn't speak. He didn't run. He just looked at Emily. She stood up slowly. "Why are you following me?" she asked, her voice stronger than she felt. Silence. Then a whisper. "You don't belong with them." Keanu stepped out then, quiet, but firm. "And you don't belong here." The man turned his head slightly, calculating. Then Tala's voice crackled in Keanu's ear. "Stand by, he's got something, left hip, not a gun, maybe a flare." Jason began moving in. "You're not going to hurt her," Keanu said. "I already did," the ghost said quietly. "When I didn't stop Vince." His voice wasn't full of rage, it was full of guilt. Emily blinked. "You were there?" He nodded. "I saw it. I wanted out, but I was too late." Keanu stepped closer. "Then let us help you. Testify. Shut the rest down." The ghost hesitated. You could almost feel the war inside him. "They'll find me," he said. "They'll kill me." "Not if you help us first," Keanu said. The forest held its breath. Then the man dropped the flare and raised his hands. An hour later, Tala had secured him. They didn't release his name, but he gave a full statement. Dates, Names, locations of hidden caches, servers, backup contacts. His testimony would finish what the arrests had started. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Keanu stayed up with her on the cabin porch, sipping tea. He was one of them, she whispered. Yes. But he chose to help. Yes. She looked out into the trees. Maybe people can change. Keanu smiled. I believe they can. And in the quiet after the storm, the world felt a little lighter. But the last twist hadn't come yet, because someone had been watching the watchers, and a final secret, one buried in Emily's past, was about to surface. The secret in the sketch. The cabin felt warmer now, not just from the fireplace or the soft blankets, but from the quiet peace that followed the storm. The ghost had surrendered. The threat was gone. Emily laughed again. She ate full meals. She even asked Jason to teach her some self-defense just in case. You sure? Jason smirked, holding out a pad. Emily nodded and grinned. Just don't go easy. And she didn't hold back either. She hit the pad with everything she had. Keanu watched from the porch, a soft smile on his face. But even in peace, some shadows remain, and one shadow was about to rise, one that had nothing to do with the crows. 3 days after the ghost was taken into protective custody, Tala returned with a folder. This came from federal records, she said, handing it to Keanu. He frowned. I thought we had everything. You did. But this isn't about them. It's about her. Keanu opened the folder slowly. Inside were old case files, Child Protective Services reports, a foster system trail stretching across 4 states, and at the bottom, a sealed document, only recently unclassified, Emily's real name, Emily Rose Hunter. Mother, Amelia Hunter. Father, unknown. But it wasn't the names that shook Keanu. It was the attached newspaper clipping. He recognized the face in the photo immediately. Years ago, during a quiet visit to a rehab center for trauma survivors, Keanu had helped anonymously fund an art program. He remembered one woman, silent but gifted, who painted skies filled with color even when her world was dark. Her name was Amelia. She had disappeared one winter. The staff said she left without a word, possibly relapsed. Keanu had never stopped, wondering what happened. And now he knew. She was Emily's mother. Keanu didn't tell Emily right away. He waited, watched, until one night, Emily handed him a drawing. I had this dream last night, she said. The drawing showed a woman sitting by a lake, hair blowing in the wind, painting the sky. Her face was soft, familiar. Keanu stared at it. Who is she? He asked gently. Emily shrugged. I don't know, but it feels like I do. He looked at the drawing again, then pulled out the photo from the file and placed it beside the sketch. Emily's eyes widened. That's her, she whispered, and Keanu said the words that would change everything. She was your mother, and I knew her. They sat for hours that night. He told her everything he remembered about Amelia's art, her quiet strength, her sadness, her beauty, her laughter that came in rare bursts. Emily listened, tears sliding down her cheeks. Why didn't anyone tell me? She asked. Because they never knew, Keanu said. She didn't leave a trace. Emily wiped her eyes. Do you think she loved me? Keanu didn't hesitate. I know she did. She just didn't know how to stay. Emily nodded slowly, and then for the first time she whispered something she had never said out loud. Maybe I'm not broken after all. A few weeks later, Keanu and Jason returned to the city with Emily. Not because it was fully safe, but because Emily wanted to finish what she started. She stood in court and gave her statement, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Strong, calm, honest. Jason sat in the back. Keanu stood by the sidewall just watching her shine, and when she stepped down, the courtroom didn't clap, because that wasn't allowed. But the silence was powerful, and a few jurors wiped their eyes. Months passed. The Crow's Macy was officially dismantled. Federal agents locked away the last remaining members. New laws were introduced to protect runaways and foster children, all because of a girl who once hid in an alley and the two men who didn't walk away. Emily enrolled in college. She chose art therapy. "I want to help girls like me," she said. Not just with words, with pictures. Keanu and Jason helped her move into her dorm. "You'll visit, right?" she asked, hugging them both. "We'll do more than that," Jason said. "We're teaching self-defense every Saturday." Keanu smiled. "And I expect new drawings weekly." Emily grinned. "Deal." A year later, her first public exhibit opened. The gallery was filled with powerful sketches of trees and cabins, shadows and hope, monsters and light. At the center, a single frame hung under a spotlight, a small bird, wounded but flying. Beneath it, a handwritten note. "This is for the girl who was scared, for the girl who hid, for the girl who rose." The room was silent. Then a slow clap started in the back. Keanu, then Jason, then everyone. After the crowd left, Keanu stood beside her. "You're incredible," he said softly. Emily leaned her head against his shoulder. "So are you." He looked around. "You did this." "We did," she said. Then she reached into her bag and handed him one final sketch. 3 people standing together, one holding a camera, one holding a helmet, and one, her, holding a pen. Beneath them she had written a single word: healed.